Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Everyday Hustle Show. My name is Christian, and tonight we're doing a little bit of a different setup. We're going to do this into a 3-part series, I believe, where we're going to kind of get into everybody's backstory. And tonight we're starting out with Jesse, so I'm excited to, I know just about a pretty good amount of his story, but I'm excited to kind of hear the full, everything in detail. But before we get into that, Drew, how you feeling tonight?
Grateful.
There we go. And Jesse's still checking the levels, so I'll check in with him in a little bit. But yeah, so I think, Drew, you kind of came up with this idea to kind of get into everybody's story.
Yeah, I mean, when we initially started the podcast, every fourth episode was supposed to be, the listeners getting to know us and a little bit about us, and we kind of divulge a little bit as we're going along. But what I want the next three episodes, well, every fourth, so we're on episode 16 now, so 16, 20, and 24 are going to be, Jesse, Christian, and myself, like kind of diving into our backstories, kind of what we do with all the guests. The guests come on, we ask them all, a little bit about their history, work history, where they grew up, did they go to college, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it would be interesting to do all that, stuff for each of us. And tonight, we just decided to put Jesse on the spot, 20 minutes before we got here, and he's all like asking questions like, oh, like what, and I said, dude, stop asking questions, bro. We're gonna roll this thing, and Kyle's gonna stop playing with the dog and squeaking the toy, and we're gonna get this going.
Yes, sir. And Jesse's here now after checking the levels.
How are the levels, bro?
I mean, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, we sound good.
Sound succulent.
Awesome. And how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm a little, like you said, put on the spot. I don't really know where I'm gonna go with this, but we'll just wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he asked you how you're feeling, dude. Like
I'm feeling on the spot. Dude.
That's how you physically feel.
I physically feel. I'm
anxious. Okay. All right, you're anxious.
I'm anxious, dude.
Damn. Well, let's just get right into it, dude. What's going on, bro? You're not from South Florida, dude.
I'm not from here.
Where did it happen, dude?
Yeah, where did start?
God bless us with your presence?
See, what comes to mind when I think of backstory, I'm like, well, I think of like the guests we have, and it all leads to something. My story right now is not necessarily leading to anything except for where I'm at today.
Nobody's story is finished.
It's definitely not finished.
I mean, you'd be dead if it was finished.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So.
But I'm from.
Where did you enter this universe?
I slid out of my mom in central Pennsylvania. In outside of Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
The funniest thing is that all Jesse's family always listens and supports us, shares our stuff online. Whatever.
She'll get a kick out of that one. Thanks, right. Mom. Hi, I love you. And it was. When
I think of Lancaster, dude, I think of Amish people.
There's a lot of Amish up there. I was actually talking to my girlfriend's parents last night, and they were asking
your mother and father-in-law.
Yeah, no, we're not quite there.
Not quite there. They just started.
But we were talking about because I'm actually going up to Pennsylvania in about a month. But there he does. He did it, Drew.
There it is. First one.
By the way, we're gonna put this out in the air. We've noticed listening back that Christian does a lot of and right.
Yeah.
And we're trying to put a.
It's not gonna happen. It's natural.
He's not gonna give it up.
Not gonna happen. It's natural.
But yeah, so I don't really know, how much detail. Like, you guys are gonna have to ask me questions like any other guest.
Okay, so you're born in Lancaster, right?
Born in Lancaster.
Okay.
What else you need to know?
I mean, so when we think of Lancaster, we think of Amish people, right?
Yeah.
I personally have been there, and I've been to your house, your parents' house. I know where you grew up, so I kind of know what it's like. But just explain to people what it's like, what it was like growing up there, because it's like far, far different from where I grew up,
and
definitely
far different from here,
and from where Christian grew up.
I think because I grew up there, obviously there's parts of it that I absolutely love, like The shit I hated growing up is it was so, like, everything was so far away. Like, you want to go to Best Buy, you're driving 45 minutes. You want to go to Walmart, you're driving a half hour. Like, it's my dad lives out in the middle of like on the side of a mountain. He's got like 100 acres and a log cabin, and
that's where you actually grew up. Like, went to elementary school. All
yeah, I was.
So, like, how long was your school bus ride to school?
Driving like in a car to school, it took like 20 minutes or something. But a school bus ride was forever because I was like the first and last stop, or the first pickup, last drop off at the end of the day. It was probably like a 45-minute bus ride. It also, like, the school district was so big because it's out in the middle of nowhere that it took me 25 minutes to get there, but then you could go 25 minutes the opposite direction. So I had some friends, that lived like 50 minutes away from me. Yeah, compared to here, in that far of like a drive time, there's probably like 20
you're freaking here to
schools.
Orlando, so what did you and your friends do for fun? Like, let's start like elementary school.
Elementary school.
Like, what did y'all do running around the neighborhood? I mean, were y'all shooting guns and chasing bears and shit? Or,
a little bit. We had like the crew of friends who kind of.
Do you remember this?
We grew up in the CKY era. What?
Do you?
Are you making this? Are you making this?
No. Well, I mean, the question was like, do you actually have memories of like elementary school? Because I have sometimes.
It's hard to.
I think it kind of starts at like third or fourth grade for me. Like I can remember, but
I was a mischievous little son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy at that age. But
the CKY boys were hot.
Oh, we were.
So this was early 90s.
Yeah.
Right, when they were just hitting it off, and they're not far from you.
They were just starting. Yeah, we were from like 40
So like, were all your friends trying to like imitate them?
Yeah, we had like our own little. We didn't call it anything, but we made videos of us like driving 4-wheelers and diving off 4-wheelers into bushes and fucking wrecking each other. Like,
I feel like everyone did that.
Everyone
in our generation did that.
I remember my cousin Paul, who listens to the show.
Shout out to Brew Buddha.
Shout out to friggin' Brew Buddha. We were like, grew up like best friends or whatever. And he went to a different school district than I did, but like some of the kids in his class, were some of my best friends too. But our one friend, Sean, his dad was like, had a lot of money. They lived in this crazy mansion, and we would always go there because they had this like underground garage, like away from their house, facing the opposite way. So we go down there and do all this crazy shit, and we almost burned the fucking thing down. Lit a fucking like he had like one of those plastic gas caddies. It was like a gas pump, but it was like filled with gas, and you could pump off of it. God. And we lit the damn thing on fire, and that was
trying to film a CKY video.
Trying to imitate that.
Did y'all get arrested or?
No, nothing
call
crazy.
The fire department or?
No, we put it out. It was a little risque. Could have got blown up in the process, but it wasn't. I didn't want Sean to have to deal with his dad. Would have probably murdered him.
Yeah. So, in the woods, CKY shit going on. That was probably pretty fun for you growing up like that.
It was, man. I don't have any bad memories growing up. It was all fun. Some good friends.
Cruising into middle school, were you involved in any sports or anything?
I think when I started out young, I was into like soccer.
Yes.
Soccer was my number one thing. I played that all the way.
Love soccer.
All the way like to my maybe sophomore year in high school. I played like other shit, but soccer was like the main thing. I played basketball for a little bit. I always sucked at fucking basketball. Baseball, I played when I was really young.
Yeah, now I know you're into music and stuff. Like, what about, were you in band?
No. I just, I took guitar lessons from when I was like 12 or 11 or something.
You never played guitar in like the school band, like
nothing
the concert
involving
band
school. No.
No. Okay.
Just
I played
in like a metal band with a couple of my buddies.
I played.
What was the name of it?
There was a bunch of different ones.
Was it like Burning Kitten?
The first one was called SFA, which stood for shit fuck ass.
Wow.
I'm telling you, we were a bunch of retarded kids.
Wow.
Yeah, I played. Yeah, I was in band for a little bit. I played trumpet for probably but I played only just to get out of school, and it was. I remember one time though, because we had to learn, we had to do like recitals and stuff, and we did one recital of the first one, and I literally did not practice. I did not learn. I just did it just to get out of school, and we were all in front of like an auditorium. And I was just pretending to like blow into the trumpet and just pushing down the little three things at the top.
So you fake played the trumpet to get out of class?
Yes, yeah.
Wow, that explains a lot.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, and then what about high school, dude? I mean, I feel like high school is like one of those like weird times for everyone, dude.
Yeah,
honestly, for some reason, dude, I feel like you wore eyeliner.
Did no? You know what? No, I can explain that. I can explain that. So my mom used to tell me that when I was young, I had like, well, first of all, she thought she was gonna have a girl, so she was gonna name it Jessica.
Nice. Okay.
And then I slid out of there, a boy, and she'd call me Jesse, you know. But I had like really long eyelashes as a kid, and everyone always thought like, "Oh, you have such a pretty little girl."
Oh, that's
She'd
cute.
be like, "Oh no, it's just freaking."
He's a dude.
It's
Yeah.
a dude. But no eyeliner.
Even with your big ass head, they thought you were a girl.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
I had a little head when I was a kid. You know, I was pretty.
Oh, so it kind of grew out as you.
Yeah.
grew into
Like
it.
my head. Yeah.
So high school, what was it like?
High school was great.
Lancaster
man.
High or
No, like my graduating class in high school was like of 100. Started out with 150. I think maybe only like 100 to 125 graduated.
yeah.
But it was a small school. We didn't even have a football team.
What?
It was that small of a school.
What year of high school did you get your driver's license?
Sophomore?
Dude, that's crazy. I didn't get mine until it was my senior year. What was your first car?
Really?
My first car was a Pontiac Grand Am GT.
Okay.
Yo, was it
Okay.
a manual boy? Were you slamming gears?
Yeah, I actually
double
had
clutching,
this
not
little,
granny shifts
this
like you
little
should have?
Ford Ranger, but I don't know what happened. I got that when I had my permit, and then for whatever reason, I think it broke down. My dad didn't want me driving an unreliable car,
Makes sense.
you know, at 16, so we got rid of it. But for me, high school, like the first part of high school was great, because even when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, my sister, you know, was like pretty popular in school, and she was like 4 years ahead. Well, wait a minute. She was like a senior when I was a freshman in high school.
3.
So like, you know, she had all the parties. and all
Oh,
the
you
shit.
had the in.
Yeah, like when I was a freshman, I was like dating one of her friends.
Wow.
Went to
Ooh.
prom like with one of her friends.
Senior
She
prom
hated
as a
it.
freshman?
Yeah, I
Wow,
went to their
dude, you were the
prom with
man.
my sister's friends. Dude,
You were
like
the
I
man.
was like, I was that kid. It was like, you know, at least it felt like that. It was like all the older kids like accepted me, you know, because like my sister was cool, and then they'd all come over to the house, and I'd get to like hang out with them. Me and my sister were pretty close.
What about your first job?
First job? Ooh, I think it probably was. I worked with my dad a lot, like in the summers, but then
Right, he owned storage units, right?
he did. But he had his own back then. He had his own construction company. They built like custom log homes,
Okay.
Pine Creek log homes.
So when did you first start working for
from
him?
scratch,
Like for your first taste of earning money?
maybe like early 2000s, 2002, 2003. Like that was like summers
see.
working with him.
You were probably, what, 13? 14?
Yeah, something like that. And I mean, my dad, you know,
I feel like that's kind of standard for everyone.
He's got, like,
you're
a-
not supposed to work when you're that young, but
No.
you usually do.
but
you know?
that's why I started out with him, because like my dad's like, you know, I'm glad I was raised by such a fine specimen, because he's like, you know, had nothing as a kid or whatever, or at least, you know, not much, and he like built this, you know, what, like, I don't want to say empire, but what his idea of that
built
was,
his
you know, like,
legacy. Yeah.
he had his own company. He built like these storage units and did like pretty well for himself. But not only that, like even to this day, he's like, you know, going on 65, 64, and he'll work.
He kills it.
He'll freaking kill me. Like if I go work with him, my dad works harder than a freaking 20-year-old kid.
Yeah.
He busts his ass, man, And he taught me a lot about what it's like to.
So you were learning the ins and outs of the business when you were.
Yeah, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, but we'd even do like my dad is always doing, even if he wasn't working at work, at home, like he would come up with something like, oh, I'm gonna like. He'd like dig out the pond and make like a man-made pond like twice the size of what it was. He had like a backhoe at home, so he'd always teach me how to run heavy equipment. We built like a bridge across the lake and like a dock in the water, and did all kinds of like projects and shit together at home.
So he's like a handyman then.
Super, like anything you could imagine, he could like build it or make it.
Wish he lived closer to us.
He's great.
He hates it in Florida.
He does hate Florida. Like
that's the sand.
He loves like when I think of my dad, like it's like you read those stories or whatever. You see the movies of like what's that movie? The movie where Leonardo DiCaprio gets his freaking neck bitten out by the bear. The Revenant.
Revenant, yeah.
The Revenant, like my dad has probably watched that movie like 35 times because that is like where he wishes, he would have grown up like in that time of like the pioneers and
is that how Lancaster is, like mountains and
not necessarily like there's you could drive an hour or whatever and be in the city of Reading, or you can be like out where he lives and everything's far drive, but he hunts, he fishes, he does all that stuff, but he also has like 2-3 hours away from his house. He has like a log cabin on like the Pine Creek in Pennsylvania, Lycoming County, and that I think when we go up in May, we're gonna take a couple days, or at least for like one night, and go up there because if once you're down here for a while, you forget what it's like up there. You go up there and like you have to drive a half an hour to get to a gas station, but you're out in the middle of the woods. I mean, he has TV, he has electric and all that, but it's like quiet, peaceful, like you could not imagine living down here and that's some shit like I do miss that from time to time, but
there's just people piled on top of people where we're at
down here.
And if anybody doesn't know, right now we're sitting in Boynton Beach, which is Palm Beach County, which is South Florida, so people just everywhere.
People upon people and
dude, I remember being out there. Probably was at like 2007, 2008.
My mom lost your car keys. My mom would she'd allow us to have parties and take everybody's keys, and then the next morning she couldn't find Drew's keys, lost his keys.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. So. Okay, so did you get good grades?
I did, honestly. I was like a 4.0 student in high school.
Through high school, okay.
I was in the freaking accelerated, the
no sports,
program.
no music in school. So I mean, what did you like?
No, I did. I did soccer.
You just studied.
And once I got to my sophomore year, I was more into music, and I was getting pissed off at I wasn't I didn't hang out with the jocks I was like a chameleon. I got along with pretty much everybody.
Were you in another band?
I played with the same guys or on and off, but it was nothing serious. Well, I can't remember what else we called the band, but it was no longer
rebranded
shit fuck ass.
Yeah, you guys got a little older, a little more seasoned, so you probably changed.
I was probably 13 when we were shit fuck ass.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but so I kind of got I got sick of the whole it was kind of like a politic thing, and I would I wouldn't necessarily only hang out with those kids. So some of the parents were like, oh, this kid's hanging out with these other people, and I just got tired of shit talking. So I was more focused on music. So I was like, well, I still need some kind of activity. So I went with more of novelty choices for sports. I joined the tennis team just for shits and giggles. And it was fun. We just fucked around, I never took anything seriously, but I had fun.
You were on JV or varsity?
Our tennis team sucked, man. We weren't serious. We'd go to matches and we'd be when we'd serve, just completely not taking it seriously. But I had a lot of fun doing that. And I also joined the golf team, and I sucked at golf, man.
Yo, I have a story about that too. I joined the golf team as well, or it was basically just going to going golfing, and I hit it one time, and literally was not paying attention at all, and I hit this kid. He was crossing over a bridge, which anytime someone crosses, you're not supposed to like swing nothing. I hit it hard as shit, and it literally hit him right in the head. He got ambulanced out like it was.
I actually have a similar story.
Really bad. Jordan, sorry about that if you're listening.
I worked at a golf course. I think that's what sparked because when you say first job, I think my other 2 jobs in high school that besides working with my dad was I worked at the music store where I took lessons like tuning guitars and friggin' fixing guitars or whatever, minor stuff. But that was cool. But the other thing is I worked at this golf course doing like groundskeeping or whatever. And I remember being on this mower. It happened twice actually, where I got hit in the face with a ball. And
that's
like the one time,
so fucked up.
I got a scar like right in between the eyes. Like I just remember like I was like mowing up towards the tee, and I seen like a group of guys, and a lot of the guys would wait for me to get out of the way. And I see these old fucks, and they're teeing up, and I'm like, they're not gonna freaking start whacking them. And I'm like, well, what are the chances it's gonna come near me, you know? And I just remember like squinting. Looking, and I just see this ball like coming straight for me, and I'm like moving my shoulders, trying to freaking juke and drive the ball, and it just boom right in the face. But funny. I was always like, you know, I didn't like going to the hospital unless I absolutely had to, so I just bled out in the grass for a while and went back to work. I just
thought about that.
So, but like, I mean, in high school, like, did like money and like hustling and that type of shit like intrigue you, or were you just like kind of like working to go through the motions and just like you work just because that's what, you know, maybe your parents made you do that to pay your car insurance or something? I don't know.
I kind of like my parents did a real good job of taking care of me, but to the point where like in my head, like I think growing up, I always thought like, oh, I'm just gonna grow up and I'm gonna freaking play guitar, and I didn't even, you know, it wasn't even to the degree where I knew exactly what I was planning on doing, you know? Because I wasn't at that point into, like, recording. I was like, I just want to do something with music, and I want to be one of those people who, like, gets to go to work and love what they do, you know? But I didn't have, like, a realistic approach on being responsible with finances, or, like, I didn't have, like, you know, some side hustle where I freaking had all kinds of money in the bank, you know? I think at young age, like, even when I'd be like, oh, like, trying to do shit I shouldn't be doing as far as, you know, slinging a little freaking pot here on the side, like that kind of shit never worked out for me because I just would freaking, I'd be like, oh, fine.
Yeah, so you worked kind of just, you know, pass time for
I was never
S&Gs and, you know.
Yeah.
And then you got a 4.0.
I did really well in school.
And you went right to college?
Yeah. Well, yes. So I freaking...
What year did you graduate college?
I graduated high school.
High school, yeah.
In 2006.
Right, and then you were in Bloomsburg in 2007.
Yeah,
right?
I went that fall to Bloomsburg, and I knew I wanted to go something with music, so I started out as a music education to be like a music teacher. And at first, I didn't really knew what that entailed. So for anyone who doesn't really know, in college you have to do like, I think it's 4 different, well, per semester, sorry, you have to do 2 different ensembles, you know, and being a freshman, I didn't get first pick at anything. So I'm like, well, I want to be in they had like a guitar quartet where it was like 4 classical guitar players.
So bad.
I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah,
like,
right.
No, that's taken. I'm like, all right, well, what about jazz band? And they're like, no, that's taken. So I was like, well, what else can I do? I'm not into
That's how you ended up in marching band?
That's how I ended up in marching band.
And that's how we met.
That's how we met, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I remember
Jesse was on the cymbals.
At first, in my head, I was like, this is fucking crazy. Because I remember that movie, American Pie, at that time wasn't that old. And I'm like, they made like, you know, band camp to be like such a fucking geeky thing, shoving trombones up assholes and stuff. And I remember like they told me like all right, so the school year starts on, you know, September or August so and so, and like, but you need to be there 2 weeks early because you're going to band camp. And I was like, what? And I was like,
Wait,
this
so
is
Drew,
crazy.
did you go to band camp as well?
I've been in march. I was in marching band. This isn't about me, right? But I had been in marching band since 7th grade.
No, but did you go to band camp with him?
Every year since 7th grade.
Nice.
But so, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I go to Bloomsburg, you know, I went to Bloomsburg because it was like kind of close to where I grew up. And I knew one of my sister's like good buddies from high school was up there, and he was in this frat. And I know I went up there and like stayed up there with him once, and like, you know, these guys were fucking crazy.
How drunk did you get at the frat house, dude?
I had a good time with them. I remember this one dude, Tobin. Dude, Tobin was the craziest dude I ever met. This dude, like, I'm there sitting there I'm there like visiting, you know, this was before the school year even. And Danny's like, oh man, I think you'd really like it here. The next thing you know, this dude Tobin busts through the front door holding a 5-gallon bucket filled with like jungle juice or something. He goes, it's time to party, brothers. And I was like, dude, I need to come here.
Okay, wait, we gotta rewind this back. Tobin, much love to you, dude, respect, but I need to understand something here. Okay. When you made the transition from high school to college, right?
Yeah.
What was going through your mind, and why did you think that you were going to college? What did you think it was going to benefit you? How did you think that it would apply to your life? What was going through your head then? Or did you just do it because everyone else was doing it?
I feel like, you know, you don't have to go to college to like, you know, work some kind of job, but like, I mean, my dad had a conversation at some point in time, and he was like, listen.
Your dad definitely didn't go to college, right?
No, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, you know, maybe I'll just like work with him, because that was right at the time where he was like, I'm either going to dissolve the business or, you know, you could take it over. And I was like not against the idea, but he was kind of like telling me, you know, I think, you know, because obviously me and him were a little different as far as like interests or whatever. And he's like, if there's something else you'd rather do, I'd almost rather you do that, because, you know, there's better livings you can make for yourself than doing this. He's like, because you, especially when you're the GC, general contractor, you put up all the money for something to be built, and then you only get paid for the house like at certain, you know, progress percentages. So once you're 33% of the way or whatever, you get paid a third of the money so far. And like, he's like, you make money and you spend it all in the next step or next couple of months, and then you get paid and catch back up. And he's like, it's not the best life you can make. You make money, but you could do better than this. So he kind of talked me out of it, honestly.
Talked you out of working for the family business.
Right, and then he ended up,
going-
he got rid of all of his employees,
Right.
and he still did construction work, but he just had built so many homes and knew so many people that he could just go and work for, you know, whatever, $30, $40 an hour for freaking so-and-so or this and here, and he has stayed busy doing that kind of shit.
What do you think about that now? So, like, take your life now where it is, and at your life at that point, what do you think would have like differed, or what could you have learned from making the decision of working for him instead of going to college?
I mean, I feel like I could have.
With what you know now, I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, years after college, obviously, I've had some downfalls and lows in my life. So I can't say that if I would have made a different choice to start back in 2006, that I wouldn't have then, you know, built a lot for myself and ruined it all anyway. So I don't know. You know, life's like got a lot of variables to it. But
I agree.
I feel like it would have been, you know, I would have had a better kickstart to financially and to like build something for myself, or at least take over something that was built.
Then you wouldn't have met Drew.
But I wouldn't have met a lot of people, man. I
Right.
traveled around. I lived all over the friggin' place. The next couple
I guess,
of
I
years.
mean, the reason why I asked that question is because, like, there's things that you learn operating and working for a business that you don't learn in college.
Oh, absolutely. Because
And that's
now
just
what
the
I'm
bottom
doing
line.
in management, like, I'm learning a lot about how even a big corporation, like,
Right.
runs and what it takes to do that, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I could have done well for myself, absolutely. Especially with my dad as a mentor,
Right.
you know? But I don't necessarily regret not doing that, because me and him, even now, if I called him up and I'm like, hey, moving home tomorrow, let's start a business, you know, he's always, you know,
Right. That'd be so tight.
He's always there.
Okay, so marching band, cymbals, you meet me, you're partying with fucking what's his face.
So let me say this. Besides wanting to go, this dude was crazy. I later found out that Tobin got arrested because somebody had slept with his girlfriend, and he went over to wherever this guy lives with a compound bow, and he shot like 20 arrows into this guy's house. Peace out, Tobin. I know you're in freaking. You're in prison.
You didn't kill anybody?
Or he didn't kill anybody, but he shot a bunch of arrows like into some dude's house.
That's probably attempted murder.
So tell us about how long were you in college? You didn't finish, right?
No.
I didn't finish either. How many years were you there?
Okay, so I was there for 2 full semesters. I did well there as far as grades, you know. I think I completed 60 credits out of 120, but at some point, like after the first year, I was like, you know, I don't necessarily know that I want to be a music teacher. I know I want to do something with music, and they were like building this new program there for like audio engineering or recording, and it was very new. Like it was still like when my first year, it was only being built.
Right.
And you know, Bloomsburg was kind of like a small school. It was known more for partying and block parties than fucking anything. You know, like I had a great time partying there. I learned a little bit in school, but I switched to the audio engineering program there, and it was shit. I had already
you were a year in, or
I was maybe it was after the first semester even, but I know like after a semester or 2, I switched to that. And I had met this kid there, Matt McMasters. Peace, Matt, if you're listening. This dude was a genius when it came to like recording. Right, he had all this freaking gear, and you know he was showing me all kinds of different shit, and it was great working with him, man. Or just like doing the shit we did at his house. But then I'd start going to these classes, right, and I felt like I knew more than the professors, which wasn't necessarily true. That's kind of like partially my ego at the time. But it was kind of true. Like, because they're teaching this basic ass shit. And I'm like, I already know all this. Like, let's get into the real shit. And they didn't have like these crazy studios.
Right.
You know, and I just kind of was like, well, this is what I want to do.
I remember recording.
Here is kind of shit.
Yeah. I remember somebody was recording their band, and they were recording it in the band room where the band rehearsed, like the concert band. And then they had the audio equipment. It was like upstairs in another room, and there was like a plexiglass window, and like there was just shit everywhere. Like they were just, I remember that
it was brand new,
starting, yeah.
But they were kind of. You know, maybe now it's like a whole different thing, but at that time it wasn't.
Yeah. I see pictures and stuff on Facebook of it. It looks like they really built it up, and
I'm sure they did. Yeah. You know, but I think the guy at the time who was like teaching it was the teacher from marching band.
Yeah, what was his name?
I can't even remember.
He was a nice guy.
Like. He was, but he wasn't like. You know,
I wanted to like on the recording.
I wanted to go somewhere where this dude like recorded platinum artists, you know, and show me what he did to freaking make them sound the way he sounded.
So you left school eventually because you felt like they didn't have what you were looking for.
I was like, this is what I want to do, but not here, you know? Because I can't... If I spend all this time here, I started looking into the more vocational school for recording. I was like, I can cut out all the gen eds and just do that.
Right.
And I'll be done in a year.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I found this school in Arizona, and I had like some equipment of my own, so I think I recorded like a Between the Buried and Me song, Selkies.
Wow.
And I recorded like I played every instrument on it. I played the piano, I played the guitar, and I recorded like.
Wait, you know that song, Chris?
No, but I know Between the Buried and Me.
Obsession.
Wait, so you recorded them, or you just?
I recorded myself playing the song, but I played piano.
Oh, then Christian goes, "Oh, that's not that impressive then."
No, it really is.
It's still cool, but.
But
I thought
so.
I
did like I had like all of my work so far, like my portfolio. I put in the CD and sent in like a scholarship program, just for shits and giggles, and they paid for like 3/4 of that school off
in Arizona.
Yeah,
that's a hard move.
You know, so that was another thing. Like, you know, my parents were like, "Are you sure about this?" And I'm like, "Here's a check, you know, for freaking most of it."
So at this point in time, you had it in your mind that you wanted to live your life and career based around audio engineering Whether it was recording live
Yeah,
sound,
because
you had it in your head
you know,
that's
that
what you
was
wanted to do.
something like for me, like I could sit in a room at 6 o'clock at night and be like, oh, I'm gonna play around on the computer. And next thing I know, I look at the clock and it's 4 a.m. and I don't even realize a minute just went by.
Yeah.
You know, I could fall into a freaking K-hole doing that shit just because I loved it so much.
Yeah. So, finished the program in Arizona. That's when you got the internship with Taylor Swift, right?
Yes. They had a program at the school was the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences. And this place was great though, man. They had like $1 million consoles, like mixing boards, you know, like in multiple different locations. They had a whole live sound room that looked like, you know, the fairgrounds, like the sound system, and they'd have bands and musicians come in to just, you know, play, like people who have done like have credits and shit, you know, that they've done that's recognizable. And it was great, man. Those was probably like some of the best months of my life because it was awesome.
Killing it out there in Tennessee, right?
Just doing it all day.
I remember that point in your life, dude. I was so envious of where you were at because I had left college at that point and I was just stuck at home making fucking pizza, and you were out there living in Tennessee. With
Tennessee
Taylor Swift,
got
dude.
rough
With
though.
Taylor Swift.
Tennessee got rough though, dude, because
Yeah, I know. Dude.
I had at that point in time, I think it happened when I was in Arizona. So I had like when I went out to Arizona, I had a little bit of a, you know, opiate problem with pills. I was taking like a lot of pain pills because I had gotten knee surgeries, you know.
Yeah, you
And
still
I
have
got-
a torn ACL?
Yeah, ACL. I tore my ACL, MCL, and have no cartilage left in my fucking knee. But surprisingly, it feels better now than it has in years. But so that's how I got started on the pain pills. But when I went out to Arizona, I was like, man, I can't. You know, I want to stop doing this, and I started trying to find like an alternative to it. So I got started on the freaking methadone out there. And it was good for a while, you know, like that's all I did, you know, and it kept me out of trouble or whatever. But then when I moved to Nashville, like the setup there to transfer like the methadone outpatient thing was a little more complicated. It was more expensive. It was like a longer drive. It was like a ridiculous wait, you know, to go in there and do it every day. And it was too much, you know, but Nashville was a little weird. I know the first day I got there, my buddy had flown out to Arizona and drove there with me. And I lived in this apartment by myself. And I forget what we were doing. We went downtown and we seen the sign for this bar, Coyote Ugly. And I was like, oh, that's from the movie. And I went in there and I freaking met this waitress. Like, I remember I slipped her my number, and then she called me like a week later, and then we started dating, and here she was a freaking stripper at Crazy Horse. And it was just like, some crazy shit was going on when I was down there. It was like some fun times to be had, but like things were a little crazy, you know? And not only that, but the internship was great at Dark Horse. Dark Horse Recording Studio was freaking awesome. But I wasn't making any money. It was all free work, you know? And then what I started finding out in Nashville was like, there's like, you know, thousands upon thousands of people who are there doing the same shit, working for free to try to like do anything and working. So I started working a job at like Valvoline, like changing oil on cars and doing like transmission friggin' flushes and all this shit.
Right.
And I would do that like 40 hours a week to pay rent. And then I'd spend like, you know, an X amount of hours a week working for free at the studio. And it became like this juggling act. And then I was trying to like, you know, I wasn't, at that time, there was a lot of other shit going on that I wasn't like, I'm going to put everything I have into like finding a job in this field. It was just like, I started to get like beat up and I'm like, you know, this is fucking hard, man. Like, do I want to like, I know I love doing this stuff, but like, do I want to freaking be struggling to try to fucking pay rent and be living
Starving artist, dude.
Yeah, and I sort of started questioning whether or not, like, I always told myself, yeah, I'll do that. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know, I don't know if I'm like okay with that, you know. like maybe I could just do this like on the side. But I was like, I had a really rough time like getting into it. Because I felt it was hard for people to like give you a chance down there. Like I was getting to do like, I was mixing these bands at this shitty bar called the Wet Beaver. And I would like, they'd pay me like $20 a night and let me drink unlimited beer.
But how long were you at the Dark Horse for?
I was there for, I lived in Nashville for like a year. But the thing was, even after my required internship, it was required like so many hours. And then after you completed that, you got the diploma from the school, but you could continue working there for free. And then if you did, I met some people there who had done it long enough that like they had showed somebody they knew what they were doing, because they allowed you to like book the studio. So if Drew, you were in a band and you're like, hey man, like I'm like, hey, I got all this shit in a world-class studio we can record at. I'm going to charge you, whatever it is, $50 an hour. They would take like 50% or more of that and allow you to work for basically like a decent hourly rate, but you had to provide clients and had to work with their booking schedules.
Yeah.
Which was a great thing. I mean, that their equipment and their rooms were freaking immaculate, and like, but I couldn't fucking get the goddamn clients. And if I did, it was somebody who wasn't going to pay enough of an hourly wage to be working in a place like that. They're like, dude, I can get this shitbag to do it in his bedroom for freaking $10 an hour. You want me to pay $60 an hour? And I'm like, well, I got to get paid. They got to get paid.
Cheap is expensive.
Yeah. So I mean, you need
you had the sales skills and the intuitiveness from your father at that point in your life. Things might have been different.
Might have been different.
It's interesting to look at it that way.
I know, looking back at like that year now, I definitely made some like mistakes. There was more I could have done to like get where I needed to get, but I was like distracted with
strippers and
freaking methadone and all kinds of dumb shit at the time.
Yeah. You were what, 23?
About 22, 23.
Yeah. You were right where you were supposed to be, dude.
Yeah. Making mistakes, learning from it, you know?
Exactly.
But then it came upon a time that I was like, I don't know, if I want to keep doing this here. I was like, I could probably go home, and, not have to pay freaking rent and live with my dad for a while and either work with him or like, he knew a lot of people. I could probably get me a shot at getting a job. And, I don't know. I was kind of like broken down and beaten up on like the fact that it wasn't all working out the way I wanted it to. And I, at some point, like made that decision, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back there, and maybe it's not the end, but for now, like I got to make a change, maybe just get like a real job and go from there.
I hate that saying, a real job.
Well, I mean, that's what at that time, that was my train of thought, because...
You mean a job not in the field that you were pursuing.
Right, like, more of a normal, like, blue-collar field, because I knew that was, like, guaranteed money in the bank, and this other thing, like, I was struggling to get anywhere with it. But, the one nice thing is I knew this kid back there who, like, he was rich, and his parents had like literally built him a studio for about like $250,000. Like they built it legit, like floated the ceilings, the walls. They had like separate rooms, and they had freaking patch bays and all kinds of shit and a lot of gear. And I started like working with him, sort of like he'd pay me hourly to come in and like help him. And then it was at some point like he was like, yo, I'm just gonna pay you to run this shit. And then eventually he kind of lost interest in all of it, and I just rented out the entire studio with all the gear for like a cheap apartment's rent per month, and I just did enough work to pay for it, and it was great. But I also, had my I started working in like concrete, and that was some like rough couple of years mentally, because like I kind of like gave up on my dreams for the last couple of years. I had like moved around the freaking country and got to see a bunch of shit, and then it was like I felt like broken down. I was like back in this freaking same place I started, like, I felt like a failure, and that kind of like led me down a shitty path. Like I held a job, but like maybe I started hanging around with the wrong people and getting into some shit I shouldn't have got into, and it just kind of, I held on to that same job for like 6 years, but like through most of those 6 years, like I was freaking not really living a great lifestyle. I was getting fucked up all the time, not really being very responsible in any way other than showing up to work, if I wasn't late or freaking, that was like a repeat offense. But those guys were pretty good to me. I don't think if I would have worked anywhere else, like I doubt they would have put up with my shit as long as they did. But
and this was all in Lancaster. You moved
back. Like that area, like Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
And so when you left them, what did you do after that?
I worked there all the way until I moved here.
Okay, so
this is like probably like 23 to I moved down here pretty much on my 28th birthday. I moved here right before my 28th birthday. But I didn't come here, because I was like, oh, let's go move to Florida. Like, I came here because I got in, like, some really shitty spots in my life, and a lot of people were fucking sick and tired of watching me make shitty decisions. And in the back of my head, like, I was tired of making all these shitty decisions, and I was like, if I stay here, I'm either going to continue down this fucking road, or who knows, like, I'm going to make a bad choice and I'm going to end up fucking dead or something, And, I think for like a couple weeks there, like I would call Andrew.
Yeah, call and complain. I'm like, he called me and complain and whine and bitch and moan. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you gonna do about it, dude? I'm like get on a fucking plane and get the fuck out of there, like, and let's get living, dude.
Figure it out.
And here we are, fucking 6 years later, something like that. You've been here 2?
Is that a real question?
You've been here 2 years?
Yeah, just over.
Wait, maybe I've been here 6 years.
Yeah, I think you're the one who's been here about 6 years.
So I moved here when
Here I am 6 years later. Here you are 2 years later.
2 years.
No, 7 years later for me.
Yeah.
I've been here 7 years.
I think the deciding factor for when I was like having those phone conversations with Drew, like, dude, I gotta do something, and you're like, I could set you up with a guy to get you on a plane like tomorrow, and I'm like, nah, I'll call you back. And I hang out and call him like a week later when shit got weird. But yeah. I don't even know if I should really be saying this on a podcast, but I hit a horse and buggy with my truck. And like, okay, this is kind of like a story. Like,
give us the abridged version.
A very quick story. I hit a horse and buggy, and these people like didn't want to press charges on me. They like literally, the guy like told me, God has a plan for you. I'm not gonna take that away from you. And I was like, all right. So he just was like, get on.
So at that moment, you were like, it's probably a good time to leave.
Well, I had destroyed my truck, and like I was so like I had already been like such a shitty relationship at that point. Like, not really a shitty relationship, but I was like every day like disappointing somebody, and I didn't want to like, hey Dad, like I fucking destroyed this truck, So I was just like, you know what, something's got to change, man. And that's when I got on with Drew, and I was like, all right, I'm serious. And we set it up, and I got on a plane like the next day, and came down here. I went for a little staycation down here in Jupiter and detox, and then I through some friends of Drew set me up with inpatient treatment, and then IOP. Like, I think the first 4 months I lived down here, I was in a IOP, and got kind of introduced to the recovery scene, which it wasn't anything I wasn't unfamiliar with. It just wasn't anything I really thought was like obtainable before. You know, I was like, I can't imagine like, you know, living life without at least drinking. That was always the thing that like got to me. I was like, you know, I never like did anything really bad drinking, you know, but it's just for me, it's like no matter what it is, you know, I gotta like take it to an extreme. So now if I like am talking to somebody and I explain I don't drink or you drug, like they'll ask me why, and I'll just be like, because like it always ends up blown out of proportion, you know?
Yeah, like
It's not
I get it, dude. I get it.
yeah, but if anyone's listening that's not like in recovery or doesn't quite understand it, it's not just because like it's not necessarily because like, oh, I never liked drinking, so I'm not gonna drink anymore. Like I had good times like drinking, you know, back in college and all
We
that.
funneled a couple beers.
We had some great days and memories, even with my family, you know, like that was what always was in the back of my head. I'm like, I had like good times like with just my mom and dad, like having a couple beers, and I was like, so I can't ever do that again, you know, but then, you know, it always turned into something crazy. And
So
I like myself better.
clear-minded.
Clear-minded, and now like, you know, seeing other people drinking and stuff, it doesn't seem very appealing to me, you know?
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
So you moved down here, kind of got moving on the right track. I know your first couple jobs were like
Shit.
yeah, kind of shit, which is like normal, dude. When you relocate, you know, you don't really know many people, you don't really know, you know, and you kind of just take what you could find just to make ends meet.
And I came down here like, you know, I literally gave my friend my truck that was wrecked, but he's still driving it now. I gave my friend Joey that truck. Joey's actually the same guy who drove with me from Arizona to Nashville and from PA to Arizona.
Shout out to Joey.
But I gave him that truck for like $150.
Nice, not bad.
Just
Good deal.
because he's a good dude. He had a kid and was trying to make changes for himself. So I tried to do something nice for him. I just kind of walked away from the house I had. Like me and my dad put in money together on this house. I put in a good amount of money and I paid, you know, 5 years. I put a lot of work into that house, but it felt like, you know, I was going to destroy that whole situation anyways. So I just told my dad, like, do whatever you got to do with it. Don't, like, I'm not going to call you in a week like I want my $30,000 back, you know? Like, I was just like, whatever you're going to do. So he started renting out my house. Came down here with no vehicle, just like a suitcase full of clothes and a friggin' acoustic guitar. And it was a little rough to start out, you know? But I feel like I needed that to like start over, to be like, it was like a constant reminder of like, you know, if I still had all this shit, for me, that's why it was so hard for me to like let go of that old lifestyle, because I always still had shit. I never lost it all. Like I still had this decent paying job and people who liked me, and I kept moving up in that company. So it was like, that kept telling me in the back of my head, like, you know, you're a good worker, you know, you can like accomplish stuff still, even though you're living this crazy lifestyle. And then like I had a house, I had a truck, I had a car, I had all these dirt bikes, I had all this like music equipment.
You had material shit.
I had all kinds of materialistic shit. And like for me, that was always like the thing that was like, kept convincing myself that it wasn't that bad, you know?
Because you associated money and things with status or happiness.
And I still sort of do, but not as,
I mean, everybody
not as
does.
bad. At least I know now that, you know, isn't going to change what's really
right. You can be happy with or without it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I needed like to kind of just get rid of all that and focus on what was going on with me.
A new beginning, a fresh start. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your first job was cabinet making. So you went.
That guy was such a fucking asshole.
You went down to the bottom. Like, you know, I know how much money you were making there.
Literally on my interview, that guy, he was from Israel, and I went in. His name was, ironically, at a cabinet making company. His name was Dror.
No,
No, that is not a
No, it
lie.
wasn't, dude.
So Dror.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was spelled Droor.
No, you made that up.
No, name is Dror.
Drawer.
So Dror, on my interview, I walk in there and the guy's like, "Oh, you look like someone who you live in a halfway house." And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Okay, I pay you $8 an hour for the first week." And I was like, "That's below minimum wage." He goes, "Do you want it or not?" And I was like, "All right." So then he's like, "You show me what you can do. I give you $10 an hour," which still was shit.
Yeah.
Like till he put me on a W-2 or whatever, and after taxes, I think I made like $300 a week for like full 40 hours a week. Like it was shit.
You needed that.
But it was like
You
it was
need
good.
to humble
You know?
yourself.
I worked with this friggin' Romanian guy, and me and him like got along. I still occasionally talk to him, Marius, but I didn't I hated it because it was like a shit job. I literally, to start out, I rode a bicycle like 4 miles one way to get there and then get home, no matter
Was
if
it
it was
uphill
raining or
both
not.
ways?
No, it was like from like Northeast 7th Street all the way down to like Linton in Delray, which is.
And what'd you do
4
after
mile ride.
I forget what you did after the cabinets.
I went straight to Cemex, dude.
Okay.
I know.
That process was long, and
It was a long process.
I remember helping you with that.
Like, because I
driving you up there.
I took
and all
off
that.
of work at the Fancy Interiors. That's what that place was called. I took off of work one day there to go to the interview, and I still, at that point, didn't even have a car. So I made a kind of a.
Your Uber
It
driver
wasn't
was
the
me,
best
Andrew.
decision. Wasn't the best decision, but I bought Andrew's Harley before I bought a car. Financed it. So I was riding the
That was a
Harley
good
around.
decision, dude.
That was great.
Good, yeah, good.
I
did, dude.
You know, it wasn't like thinking about it now. Responsibly, it wasn't the best decision, but I loved it.
We all do
At the
irresponsible shit.
But so I went to that interview. Drew had to drive me up there from all the way in Jupiter. It was like a half hour away or something. But that I knew that went well. Like the day it happened, you know. Like, because I had 6 years of experience. These guys were looking for people, and he was talking to me the interview, and he's like looking through my references, and he's like, "Who's this guy, Randy Pfeiffer?" I was like, "Oh, he's the general manager, where I used to work." And
Well, we
he's
kind of
like-
missed the part where you worked at a concrete production plant at home.
I went over it briefly, not in much detail, but
did
that
I
was the
zone
job I
out?
had for 6 years.
I must have zoned out.
I think I don't know what happened, but
That was in between coming home from Nashville and leaving to Florida.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
So
Sorry.
that was like, real briefly,
But
that's
that
when
gave
I
you
was,
that little segment there gave you the experience and the knowledge to seal this deal with the company that you're at now, which
Yeah.
if
And
anyone
that's-
has been following our show, you just got a promotion and you're driving a company vehicle and you have a company gas car and all this shit, which is sick.
And I think where I'm at with this company, from everyone else I've met there, to get where I'm at with them has taken a lot longer than it has for me. For a couple different reasons. Partially because a bunch of people got fired for making dumb decisions, or got moved around or whatever. So that obviously helped my case, because the more people got weeded out, the more openings that popped up in the county. But also, I went in there, they did things a lot differently, and it was they do a lot bigger work here that I wasn't really used to, like these high-rise buildings. I didn't know much about, how something like that gets built, because there was no 30 floor fucking high-rise going up in Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
And how did you even find out about this job?
Originally from riding my bike around Delray, there was a plant by 95 in Atlantic, and I was go to those meetings at the Central House. So I'd go to meetings at Central House, and I would pass every day, and I'd see this freaking concrete plant. And there was a bunch around there, but that one was like the one where I first lived when I came down here. It was like right there. So I like walked in there, and they were like, "Oh, we're not hiring anything." So then I continued to like.
Yeah, no, we're
Right.
good. He walks in. No, we're good.
But I literally I know, like, I spent the next, like, couple weeks or months or whatever it was. I don't know the time frame, but I kept working at the cabinet place, and I would fucking hate it more and more. And then one day, this asshole drawer had me freaking drive to Fort Lauderdale to pick up, like, a roll of tape. And then I get back, and he's like, "That's all you got?" I'm like, "You fucking sent me down there, dude." He's like, "Oh, why the fuck would you drive to Fort Lauderdale just to get a roll of tape?" I'm like, "Because you fucking told me to."
Yeah.
And then, like, he was like an idiot, and he's just like, "Oh, this is unacceptable." I'm like, "Well, then fucking don't tell me to do shit." I was like, "I don't know what the fuck is going on right now." But I had, like, it was a real shitty day. And I remember he's like, "Go back down there and pick up this." So I had to turn around and go all the way back to Fort Lauderdale, like, in rush hour. And I should have been off already. And I was pissed off. So I'm looking through my phone, and I remember that when I stopped in at the Cemex plant, this guy gave me his phone number. And I just randomly, I was like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here." I called, no answer. So then I looked up online, like, Cemex Lake Worth. And I called that number, and that guy who I had met, that I was trying to call his cell phone, answered the phone. And I was like, "Hey, Chris."
He's like, "Damn it."
I was like, "You remember me, dude?" And he's like, "Hey, shit." He's like, "I'm glad you called. Like, we're looking for people." And then he's like, you know, he had my resume still, and you know, through a series of emails, he set up this interview with, like, you know, the upper bosses or whatever. And from that, when I got interviewed to when I got hired was like a month or maybe even 5-week process. But that's how I got started there.
And you are, I know you kind of touched base on you know, your brief history or past history with you know, addiction and stuff like that, and it's you know it's I appreciate you bringing it up because I know sometimes it's kind of hard to talk about, but you know, you touched on, you know, kind of mentality of like feeling like a liability and to everybody around you and stuff like that. Do you still now feel like a liability?
No, I mean, because I know, like, obviously, to the people in this room, they know me and my current, like, recovery plan, which isn't necessarily by the book, you know? Like, I don't probably go to meetings as much as I should. I don't really work with a sponsor as much as I should. But, like, the main thing I do is, like, stay clean and make better choices than I know I did in the past, you know? And whether or not, like, I'm doing steps out of a book, you know, like, I try really hard to, like, right now, it's obviously been hard. Like, if I start thinking about big goals, it's hard for me to, like, I get overwhelmed because I'm like, holy shit, like, it's going to take a lot to get there. So I've been just little shit, you know, like, I want to be better at this, and I work towards it, like, a little bit. I might not work as hard as I should, but, like, I'm constantly thinking about, like, what needs to be improved, and I've made a lot of improvements in my everyday life.
What's the opposite of a liability?
An asset.
Kyle's over here giving us
Thanks, Rumi.
Kyle's over here giving this
Thanks, Swin.
the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's how I feel at work.
You're definitely
too.
an asset in your life. You're definitely an asset to your company, to your family, you know, so whatever, dude. We're not here to judge you or ask you any fucking questions
I'm
about,
kind of,
you know.
and that's the thing too. When I first started at that company, I didn't want to tell them about, like, my history and, like, my bosses, my two, like, direct immediate bosses. Well, now it's only one, but both those guys are awesome guys, man. Like, they're honestly probably outside of, like, people I've met in recovery here and, like, my family or people I've met already in my life are like role models. Like, I'm like, these guys live lives that, like, I can respect and, like, you know, I would be happy, like, making it out, like, the way they did, you know? But they're really cool guys, and they fuck around a lot at work and joke around, but they're always like, hey, man. At first, they were like, you should come by the
Drink a beer.
You know, yeah, at the bar.
Let's have a brewski.
Let's have some beers. And I was like, I just kept, like, pushing it off, you know? And then at one point, I had to, like, call my boss and be like, hey, I need to take a couple days off. There's some shit going on. this is who I am. And I laid it out, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been making some shitty choices the last couple weeks. About like a year ago, I started drinking a little bit here and there, making some shitty choices. And it was like nothing too crazy out of hand, but it was enough that like I was off track of where I wanted to be, So I came flat out and told them at work, and I was like,
Yeah.
I knew because it happened before in Pennsylvania that like once you go to your work, if you get popped on a drug test or something at work, you're screwed.
Right.
But if you go to them and say, I got this problem, they allow you to.
Yeah, and then if they terminate
it.
you from that point, it's against the law.
Right.
So
and
now
they can't do that. So once you say it to them,
Yeah.
after you say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and you do that and you follow through with it, then they can drug test you all they want. And if you screw up, then you're screwed. But like I wasn't, I wanted to make changes, and that's like last April. I freaking.
So now, do they ask you if you still want to get beers, brewskis, Budweiser?
No, they'll be like, "Hey, if you're not doing anything, come by and have a soda." But they normally don't even ask me to go
Now
because
they
I
still
told
don't
them
ask
like,
you.
"Listen,
they
I
don't
really
ask you
have-"
because they know the answer.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really have any business
Yeah.
like being in a bar.
It's strange. I mean, I've been listening to some stuff this week, and I kept hearing like you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with. I kept hearing that this past like 10 days. Like I'm listening to all kinds of random stuff between audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube, this, that, and I just kept hearing it, dude. It seems like those 1 or 2 guys at your job are like those are good guys to have because they have things that you want. You respect them as people, and they have integrity and they're honest. And they've worked hard to get to where they're at. So those are 1 or 2 of the 5 people that you need to keep close because they're gonna lift you up.
Yeah, and that's why like whether or not like my kind of recovery game plan, for right now, like it's being around people like that and working towards like something. And right now I'm on a path at work, like, or if I keep it up and I keep doing what I'm doing, I could move up to the next level, possibly, relatively soon, compared to some of those guys. Like one of those guys took him like 11 or 12 years to get to the next level from where I'm at. And I've only been there like a year and a half.
Right.
So if something would happen a year from now and I'm doing just as good as I am now, I'd be like the next candidate.
Yo, how come you haven't gotten any work for from Live Nation for the live?
I got
audio?
one next. I have a working at the Crowd Center.
Are you gonna
next
go?
Sunday. Yeah,
You're gonna do it? Okay. So
I think it's just because that right now with the union shit, it's a seniority thing.
Yeah.
And there's all these old
dude,
men.
honestly, you needed that time to focus.
I really did because work
on
got
your current
really
job.
busy.
Yeah.
And I just got the promotion. I've been working like some weird hours and all over the county, and I've been cool with like not getting calls. And I was honestly just hoping they wouldn't.
Dude,
call.
that job is sick because you never know. One day you might just pick up a box for the right fucking person, and then bam, you have a job or some shit.
And I like because it makes me feel like all that shit in college like wasn't wasted time.
Right.
Because since I moved to Florida, like when I was back in Pennsylvania, I did more with like the recording and music stuff as a hobby that I didn't feel like it was time wasted.
Oh, so what do we chop liver out here?
No, but
on
that's
the
why.
podcast?
That's part of the reason I wanted to do
You
the
ain't
podcast.
audio recording us.
It's part of the reason
You
I
ain't
wanted to do the
bouncing
podcast.
tracks, huh?
Because I wanted to like put this stuff to use.
Checking levels, audio engineering.
But yeah, the Live Nation thing's pretty cool. But
Good.
yeah, I'm working
I'm glad
some
you took
kind of
that job,
musical.
dude. I think anything they send you from now on, if you have the ability to take it, dude, and get us tickets whenever you can.
I'm not sure what this one is. I think it's some kind of musical teardown or something. But
Whatever.
5 p.m. next Sunday, about 5-6 hour shift, decent money.
It's not
That'll
bad.
be a great night for you. All right, cool. So that was probably pretty long, and I want to talk really quick before we wrap it up about our projects because we try to do that. So Jesse, what did you think about the book we read last month?
Which one was that again?
Oh yeah, okay. So, but anyways,
wait. It was a real page turner.
All right, so yeah, I mean, we wrapped up the book. We're on to another one, and I don't even want to talk about Mark Manson anymore. I'm over it. What's your habit for this month? I don't care what your other ones were. What are you doing this month?
This month, so I'm still doing the same thing with the mornings.
What are you doing this month?
That's what I just said. I'm
Huh?
still focusing on this month, the morning meditation.
You're doing the same thing you did last month?
Morning meditation.
I feel like
It's-
I feel like you're kind of cheating the system.
No, dude. He always said his stuff was gonna carry over.
Morning meditation, and then I'm trying to sleep a little bit earlier every weeknight. I'm trying to sleep a little bit earlier. And
So that's new. You're trying to go to bed earlier.
and then I'm trying to put more energy into my relationship with Kelly. So date nights, doing more stuff like that.
But do you have a plan for that?
Yeah.
Speaking
we
of
have a
which-
date night every week.
What day?
It varies. So sometimes Friday, sometimes because she works Saturday nights. So
Yeah. So I have a little experience with that, and if you don't schedule it, like for a specific day, I know things change, and people think like I
It's
shouldn't
usually
have to
Friday or
schedule
Sunday.
time with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I'm doing 5 days a week in the gym. You know, so I'm pairing that with my nutrition and the reading and everything. We're reading the Shortcut Your Startup. What's your first impression?
I like it. It's they talk about because it's two of them. So I don't know. Obviously, I don't know who's.
I'm only like maybe 10, 15 pages in, but
Yeah, I'm in chapter 2.
yeah.
So it's
First impression, just
yeah, it's good, man. I like like basically the breaking down the basics of it. You know,
Yeah.
of starting up something.
yeah. I like how there was like a thing on like entrepreneurship, and there was 5 sections, and it was like if you don't think that you could do these 5 things, it's going to be hard for you to move
Right.
on. And it was like have the ability to look at every situation positively.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like there was a bunch of different things in there that like, dude, and it was sick. I went through the list and I'm like, I'm that. You know, the only thing that I think about the book, I think it's more geared towards, and this is only first impression, I could be completely wrong. It's more geared towards like startup, like I don't know. I feel like what I'm doing now, because I'm starting a company. Mm-hmm. I'm actually starting 2 companies, right? Mm-hmm. But I feel like it doesn't really apply to those 2 like industries, I guess you could say. I thought it was like more geared towards like tech stuff, you know, like when I think of startup, I think of like, you know, something in the tech world. But I mean, they made their money off of alcohol, off of liquor,
beef or whatever.
Yeah, it was a vodka. So I think I just need to be open-minded and just keep reading it. And I think it's going to have a lot of useful resources for us, the people who listen to the podcast, and also anybody who's looking to make that jump to start, you know.
Yeah, because it's definitely something that applies to all the industries, because they're talking about in one section, just to touch on it real quick, they're talking about like getting in the trenches, basically doing market research,
Yeah.
going to different places,
Yeah.
and they go through like their process with Veeve, and it's really interesting what they did when they started.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep chugging along. Okay. All right, cool. So Jesse,
I do.
big thanks to you. You want to add something?
I haven't been reading the books, obviously, except for that last one that was a real page turner. But I have, not necessarily because I was like, ooh, I need to come up with a habit for the show, but I have been trying. My original habit was to like jet ski more, and that has been paying off a little bit. I'm still, I have some goals with that, and I'm working towards them, but it's making progress. Secondly, this month I really want to try to eat better and not eat like out less, and like go to the grocery store, get stuff for work, rather than like I'd go to work with nothing, be starving, and then like have to be forced into like going somewhere for food. And now I'm like on the go a lot more, so it's a lot easier to like swing through freaking Chick-fil-A or whatever.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A is not so bad, but
day.
everywhere else is pretty bad, And I've been doing decent with that for the last like 2 weeks or whatever. And me and Helena have been cooking a couple times a week together.
Nice.
Dude, food is so important, man.
It really is, dude,
at
but
our age, it's like
I'm 30
Once
years
you-
old. You
Yeah.
gotta freaking be a little bit of an adult. And like,
you got to be more cautious about what you're doing, especially when you creep over that 30 mark. You
right?
realize
Because I'm
that.
trying to like my main hobby right now is pretty physical, and if I just keep eating like a slob, and Kyle's gonna catch a dick punch right now for that audio slip.
Messing
But,
with the levels, dude.
The levels, dude. But yeah, I really think that that's important. And there's some other things on the horizon right now. That's what's on top of my head. And I appreciate you guys. You know, this actually ended up being a lot more comfortable than I expected.
Awesome.
In the beginning, and I'm just gonna keep sucking the day's dick.
Jesus. Well, thanks, Jesse, for that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, right? I mean, I for anyone listening, you know, again, we appreciate you guys tuning in every single week. We do our best to update the blogs that we have on our website, and we'll be doing that Monday, so be sure to tune in.
Whose story's next?
You have to tune in to find out.
You gotta tune in to find out.
Touche, bud. Don't die.